Saturday night brings us a massive showdown in South Bend as number 16 Texas A&M takes on number 8 Notre Dame. The Aggies looking to get revenge from last year's 10-point loss in College Station to the Fighting Irish, and also looking to get a massive resume-boosting victory before they enter the bulk of SEC play. Notre Dame, this is a must-win for them. Their backs are pretty much against the wall from now until the end of the season. They need this win to keep their playoff hopes alive. They need this win to avoid that disastrous 0-2 start. The stakes are massive. The stakes are high on Saturday night, and we're going to share with you who will win this game right here on the Gridiron Expert. So welcome back, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, which are some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. We're beating out over 80% of the national handicappers have done so each of the last 6 years. We're going to do so again now. We hit over 60% of our bets, both in college and NFL in week 2. We're going to continue to win big in week 3. So go sign up today, join our GE Nation, and take advantage of our picks and all of our extra analysis today. So let's get into this. This is I think an underrated game, maybe slightly overshadowed by Georgia, Tennessee, but arguably the best game of Saturday night, right? We got 3 top 25 matchups. This is the biggest one on Saturday night. A&M coming off a 2-0 start, beat UTSA in week 1, beat Utah State last week. Notre Dame coming off a bye week. And of course, as we know, in week 1, they did fall on the road to Miami, an absolute thriller against the Hurricanes. And it does sound ridiculous to say it's only week 3, it's only their second game, it's a must-win for Notre Dame, but it really is because they don't have a conference championship. They don't have a chance to get that automatic bid or anything. The schedule, pretty much after the first week of October, gets really, really light. You know, Miami was a big game for them. A&M's a big game for them. They do have to travel to Arkansas. That could be a decent win. They've got Boise State. They've got USC. But a 2-loss Notre Dame without a conference championship, it might be hard to see them making the 12-team playoff. That's why they need to rack up as many quality wins as they can, and A&M certainly would be one of them. Take a look at the offense. We'll start diving into it. We'll start with Texas A&M. They are the road team after all. This offense is all about Marcel Reed. Plain and simple. He's been phenomenal in the first 2 games of the season. 509 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and is also the Aggies' leading rusher right now with 105 rushing yards and another touchdown. So it's pretty much been all him, right? Which is great that he's playing so well, but also if you're A&M, you need someone else to step up, right? You need the running backs, and they have a great trio of running backs, so you need someone there to step up and take the load off of Marcel Reed. You don't want him constantly running the ball. You don't want him taking unnecessary hits, whether it's because of poor protection or because he's running the football. You need someone else to step up for Marcel Reed. The wide receivers have been phenomenal, though. Mario Craver already has over 230 reception yards and 3 touchdowns in just 2 games. Casey Concepcion from NC State has been phenomenal as well, 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. So those 2 players alone have accounted for 6 of the 7 touchdowns that Marcel Reed has thrown. Obviously, his mobility is what makes him so dangerous, too. He's certainly, at least in the first 2 weeks, has improved as a passer, but his mobility is what's going to maybe give this Notre Dame defense some issues heading into Saturday night. The biggest thing for A&M in a game like this, though, as great as they've looked, they were playing teams they were expected to beat handily in UTSA and Utah State. They need to get off to a faster start. This is one of those games where if you're Texas A&M, you're hoping to come into South Bend, silence this crowd immediately, jumping out to an early lead, or at least be leading at the end of the first quarter, right? Because I look at these 2 games that they've already played. They did not score an offensive touchdown until early second quarter against UTSA. And UTSA was hanging around for a while in that game against the Aggies before ultimately pulling away. So A&M did have an 80-yard punt return in that game against UTSA in the first quarter, but the offense really was kind of stagnant. And then they only led Utah State 10-6 after the first quarter. They need to find a way to get off to a stronger start, a faster start, a way to kind of take the energy out of South Bend and kind of put the pressure on Notre Dame. That's going to be the key if I'm Mike Elko and A&M heading into this game offensively. Notre Dame, meanwhile, they're coming off that loss against Miami, the win over the bye week, I guess you could say. 221 passing yards, only 93 rushing yards against the Hurricanes. That's my concern, okay? Look, CJ Carr played well. First career start for him in a road environment against a top 10 team. Went 19 for 30 with 2 touchdowns and an interception that really wasn't his fault. Probably shouldn't have thrown the ball, but it got tipped up, kicked up, and picked off by Miami. It really wasn't his fault. But I look at this Notre Dame team, they did not do a great job of running the ball. A team that typically is strong up front on the offensive line, has one of the best running backs in the country in Jeremiah Love. He only carried the ball 10 times for 33 yards against the Hurricanes. Their leading rusher was Jadarian Price. He had 6 carries for 45 yards. Only 93 rushing yards on the day for the Fighting Irish. That is a concern, right? You've got to find a way to get the ground game established against A&M here. And I don't know what the game plan was. Miami does have a very strong front seven. Clearly they weren't having much success. Maybe they didn't want to go in there and have much success. Maybe they were hoping to go in there and surprise some people by taking C.J. Carr and letting him air it out. But even then, they weren't airing it out that effectively. A lot of drives stalled for Notre Dame. A lot of breakdowns in the protection that C.J. Carr had to improvise on. It was not the best performance. He did everything he could. Did lead them to a comeback before the defense gave it up and Miami won by 3. But regardless, I think there's a reason to be concerned for Notre Dame's offense and some questions of Notre Dame's offense as to why they went away from one of the best running backs in the nation. So I'm hoping that they choose to go back to Jeremiah Love on Saturday night. I'm hoping they choose to try to dominate the Aggies on the ground, to bully them in the trenches, to establish the run, which in turn will open up the passing game for C.J. Carr. That's what Notre Dame needs to do. Because if you look at A&M these last few weeks, they haven't been the best defensively, right? They gave up 24 points to UTSA. And remember, the Roadrunners were hanging around for a lot longer than people expected in week 1. They gave up 22 points to Utah State last week. They gave up 373 yards to the Roadrunners in week 1. 203 of those were on the ground. So they got torched on the ground against UTSA. They got up 250 yards to Utah State. So I look at that. If I'm Notre Dame, saying it can be done. We are better on the offensive line than UTSA. We have better running backs than UTSA. We can dominate this game on the ground. And if you look back last year, Notre Dame had a handful of big-time running plays against the Aggies in College Station, especially the late one. I believe it was by Jeremiah Love. Maybe it was Jadarian Price. Can't remember that. Had the big breakthrough run that really put Notre Dame ahead for good later on in the game, like I believe the fourth quarter. So I'm looking at A&M here. I am concerned about their defense a little bit. I would be a little concerned about stopping this Notre Dame run game that I think will try to be established more so than they did back in week 1 against Miami. If you are Texas A&M, the key is to get after C.J. Carr. The Aggies already have 7 sacks on the year. Can they break through this offensive line? Can they get after C.J. Carr, force him in second, third, and long situations, force him to make some bad decisions, just force him to get uncomfortable, kind of like he looked at times in week 1 against Miami. If they can force Notre Dame to become one-dimensional, and I think the way to do that is by forcing the Fighting Irish to throw, take away the run just like Miami did, and force C.J. Carr to deliver, I think the Aggies have a really good shot to win this game. So that's A&M's key here. Shut down the run. Hope Notre Dame doesn't go off on the run. Force C.J. Carr to win the game through the air, and you've got a shot to win. Notre Dame, still a solid defense. Didn't play their best against Miami. Gave up a lot of big-time third down conversion. Just couldn't really get off the field. Gave up 324 yards to the Hurricanes, 205 through the air, 119 on the ground. They have yet to force a turnover. They only had 1 sack in that game. Only 2 tackles for a loss. Credit that to what you will. Miami's a very good football team, right? They had a very strong offensive line. They had an experienced veteran quarterback in Carson Beck. This is what, if these were the numbers Notre Dame put up against a really bad opponent, then I think we'd be having a harder conversation, a more concerned conversation. But the Fighting Irish, again, did everything they could against a top 10 team, but they still didn't have as much push as we thought they would. They still didn't play as well as I thought that they would. The biggest thing for Notre Dame in this game is to contain Marcel Reed. We talked about it a second ago. He's been phenomenal. Over 500 yards in 2 games, 7 touchdowns, no turnovers. He's a leading rusher for the team. He's doing it all for the Aggies offense right now. You take him away, you win the game. And what I mean by that is you got to contain him to the pocket. He's been great as a passer, but I do like this Notre Dame secondary. They did hold Miami to just 205 passing yards. It's really not a lot. Right? You got cornerbacks like Christian Gray, Leonard Moore, some really good safeties as well. If they can shut down the top 2 wide receivers in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, I believe that Notre Dame can win this game. If you contain Marcel Reed to the pocket and don't allow him to pick up some first downs with his legs, you're going to win this game. Because while A&M does have some good running backs, I haven't seen much of them in the first 2 weeks, and I thought I would have against inferior opponents. So I don't think the Aggies are going to have much success running the football. It's a matter of if Notre Dame can contain Reed and that their safeties and their cornerbacks, their secondary as a whole, can do their job against these really good wide receivers. That's what we need to see here from the Fighting Irish. I look at this game, guys. The final analysis here, Notre Dame, to me, has the defensive edge and they have the home field advantage. I would venture to say that A&M's actually got the offensive edge. They've got the edge at quarterback as of right now from Marcel Reed, who has more experience than C.J. Carr and has looked great so far this year, even though it's only been 2 games. They've got some really good wide receivers. Notre Dame does too, but it doesn't really matter if the quarterback and C.J. Carr can't get it to him. I would say Notre Dame does have the running back edge here, and that's kind of the X factor. How well does Notre Dame run the football? Do we see the Jeremiah Love that we expected to see in week 1? Do we see the Jeremiah Love we saw last year? Or does Notre Dame continue to struggle to run? And if so, what can C.J. Carr do with all the weight on his shoulders? Ultimately, guys, in this game, I'm going with Notre Dame. I'm going to pick Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is too good of a coach to drop to 0-2. Off a week of rest to correct the things that they did against Miami. Again, a game that Notre Dame almost won. They did not play great at all against the Hurricanes, and they still almost won that game. Battled all the way back, tied it up. The defense just couldn't get the stop, and Miami ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. But Notre Dame still had a chance offensively to go win it or tie it, just couldn't move the ball. I think the drives are going to be more sustainable. I think the offense is going to move a little bit more fluidly. I think the running game gets more established here than they did against Miami. I do think A&M hangs around for a while, but that Notre Dame defense, certainly a force to be reckoned with. South Bend, one of the most difficult places to play in the country. I know the Aggies have dealt with SEC environments. I get that. I'm sure that's going to be an argument. I still think South Bend is going to do their job. Give me Notre Dame to get to 1-1, to get a massive resume-boosting win, to kind of calm the nerves of Notre Dame fans across the country now. They will not start 0-2. They will get a signature win over a top 20 opponent. A&M drops to 2-1. Doesn't ruin their hopes or anything, but certainly not the result they wanted. What feels like a winnable game for them, certainly Notre Dame still crushes their hopes. The Fighting Irish prevail, and I think they prevail by at least 10 points, just like last year. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Do not miss out on those. Come win big with us today as a member of our GE Nation. Again, the link down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.